Hey, welcome. Today we're going to learn Next.js from scratch by building a blog. So this is what we're going to be building, and you can see right now we have a Next.js blog with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles, build a blog with Astro, Framework Motion, GraphQL, and this site is currently hosted. You can go check it out right now, nextmt.vercel.app. You see exactly what I have on my screen. One of the really cool things about Next.js is when I click any of these links, these are all links, these are the article links. I click this one for Redux, for example, it opens up immediately. And you might wonder, wait, that's not cool. That happens in React already. Cool, if you're writing React, you see something like this, but with single page applications. Now, React is primarily used for single page applications, bare React. So if you've been using just React without any framework like Next.js or Gatsby, you've been building single page applications. And what that means is that you have just one page you're sending to the browser. Unlike Stack Overflow, for example, we come to Stack Overflow and look at this. You click About and see that there's a load time. It starts loading the About page, and then after a while, it gives us the About page. We have this About page. But with your bare React, you click on any link, it just opens up immediately. That's because it's just one page and you just have the components rearranging themselves. If you've not learned React, you can go check out my React crash course right now. It's free on YouTube. I'll also leave a link to that course in the description of this video. So go check it out right now. You learn how to build an Instagram application with React from scratch. And with just React, you build an application and you open up that application in the browser or that web app in the browser. This is index.html. This is what you get. So if I say open with live server right now, the browser gets this blank page along with the JavaScript. And then on the client, on the browser right now, the browser is referred to as a client, the JavaScript starts rendering the HTML and CSS for you. So the web page is now rendered on the client after the browser gets this blank page. But if it's a multi-page application, like what we've seen with Stack Overflow, the HTML and CSS is given to us directly from the server. So why this is important is because of search engines. So why these are different pages directly with their HTML and CSS, not blank HTML pages, is because when search engine crawlers come to the web page, come to the website, they want to see something. So they know what to crawl. They know what your website is about. But if it's just your regular React app with a bare HTML and JavaScript code, it's going to be difficult for them to see any content because what they get is this at first before the JavaScript starts rendering your application and giving us the HTML and CSS on the web page. So this is what they get. So most of the time, it's not going to be possible or easy for search engines to crawl our application. And if you're building a blog, for example, or look at what Stack Overflow has done, you want to search for anything programming, you see Stack Overflow first. That's because it's a multi-page application. If it was single page app, it's not going to be so easy for search engines to see what's inside of it. Now, if you're building a blog, you want the help of search engines. You want a multi-page app and not just a single page app, because you want people to be able to discover your articles. That's why you're writing, so that people can see it. So that if I go to Google and search build a blog with Astro, I see your article right there. Build a blog with Astro. That's what you want. And that's why we have Next.js. Next.js is built on top of React. So Next.js is still React, but it's a framework on top of React that helps us build multi-page apps. So we've talked about client-side generated applications. So this is going to be referred to as CSR. So you're going to hear it a lot, CSR, client-side rendering. And then with the one you get from Next.js, you can get SSG, static site generation, and SSR, server-side rendering. So one really cool thing about Next.js, or another really cool thing about Next.js, is that we don't get to do so many configurations under the hood. Next.js helps us with things like image optimization, easy setup, prefetching, whereby you click on any of these links and they open up immediately. So Next.js helps us with all of that. We don't have to start configuring that ourselves, because if you had to do that yourself, it's not going to be so easy. And we're going to be learning how to build this blog today. You can see our bio page. You're going to work on this yourself so that you make it your own bio page. Hello and welcome to the Ebenezer Don blog. Put your name there and give us your picture and tell us about yourself in the bio page. But I'll show you how to build this. I'll show you how to build the articles. And this is a single article page where we have GraphQL, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This page was written with Markdown. I'm sure you've heard of Markdown before. I'm guessing you've heard of Markdown. So this was written with Markdown, and I know you're already noticing this cool stuff right here. We have syntax highlighting inside of our article page. I'll show you how to do that. And we are using, this is because we're using the components inside of our Markdown file. We're using MDX for Markdown, and MDX helps us write JSX inside Markdown files. Now, this is an example of a Markdown file for the as true article. Look at this. This is all written in Markdown, and then that's converted to HTML. But inside of our Markdown file, if you've done anything with GitHub readme.md files, that's Markdown. So instead of a Markdown file, we can also write JSX. We can write these HTML tags, div, for example. We're using it in a Markdown. We can have this heading syntax that you have for Markdown, where you have this is a Markdown subheading. And we can also use components inside Markdown. So we're using the syntax highlighter component to show the code in our blog post with syntax highlighting. And I'll teach you how to do this in a short while. We can also use components. We're also using the button component. You can see right here inside of the GraphQL, the good, the bad, and the ugly article. Look at this. I can click. This is, imagine what you'd be able to do with this piece of tech. You can have JavaScript inside your Markdown file. You can write articles where you're explaining things by example. People can interact with your articles. You won't be an ordinary developer. You'll be unstoppable. So, but this is what we can actually do inside of articles. So that's cool. I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you how to do everything right now. So that's it for a Next.js introduction. And when you're done building the application, I'd love to see it on newdev.io. You can come over to newdev.io, my learning platform and community for developers, and then make a post like the ones you can see right here. People posting about their projects, the projects they've built, and then I'd love to check it out right here. So you can see some examples of people posting with their GitHub repositories. I'd love to check it out. So that's it for the introduction. And I don't even know what we're still waiting for. Let's start building already. All right. To get started, you need to open up your terminal and run the command npx create next app or yarn create next app or pnpm create next app, depending on the node package manager you want to use. I'll go with pnpm because in my experience is much faster than the alternatives. So right in my terminal and in my directory of choice, which is named projects, I'll run the command pnpm create next app, hit enter, and we should get some questions. So the first one is, what is your project named? And let's name it Next MDX blog. And that's the name of our project. And using pnpm, you see that the dependencies are being installed right now. All right, that's done. Now the next thing we're going to do is open up this directory. This our newly created app. Mine is located in desktop/project/next.mds blog, and we'll open it up in our code editor or IDE of choice. I'll be using VS Code. And now we have a Next MDX app opened up in VS Code. You can see right now the structure of a Next.js project. Node modules, you're already familiar with node modules if you've worked with React, and these are where all our npm packages are stored. We also have the pages, public, and styles directory. The pages directory is something you're probably not used to in React, but with Next.js, this is how we also structure our route. We also set up routing in Next.js. This means that if we come over to localhost 3000 or the base URL of our application, we're going to see what we have directly in pages/index.js file. So this is what we're going to see if we try to run a Next.js app. So let's try that right away. We'll come over to the npm script session in VS Code and hit the dev command. So we can either do that or come over to a terminal and then run the command pnpm or npm or yarn, depending on which package manager you use. And we can have pnpm run dev to start up our Next.js application. This is a way to start the development server, but we can also run the production build, and to do that we'll have to run pnpm or npm start, and we'll get an error right now because we need to build our application first, and that's why we have the build command right here in our package.json file. And to do that we'll have to run npm or pnpm run build, and that should build our application. Now what we want to do is stay with pnpm run dev so that we have a development app. We also get hot refresh so that when we make any change in our Next.js app, we immediately see that change. Right now, our app is successfully started on localhost 3000, and when we go over to localhost 3000, look at our application right now, our new Next.js app. Welcome to Next.js. Get started by editing pages/index.js. So this is the pages/index.js, and if we come to our base URL, that is exactly what we're going to see. And routing is straightforward in Next.js, because if we want to create a bio page, for example, which we will be doing, all we need to do is inside of pages, create a new file, and we name it bio.js. The next thing we're going to do is create a bio component. So I'm going to use my React shortcut for this, which is RFC for bio, and let's name this, let's use capital letter for this. So we have a bio component, and React snippet works. Cool. Now I can come over to localhost 3000/bio, and look at that, I have my bio component. So let's change this to H, should be H1 or H2, and I'm just gonna write, hey there, I'm bio, and hey, H1 right here. And look at that, hey there, I am bio. So this is the way we create pages in Next.js. So inside of this has to be inside of the pages directory. So Next.js is expecting to see your pages in the pages directory. The index.js file of any folder is going to be the default for that folder name. So this means that if we come over to our pages directory and create a new folder named blog right now, and then we have an index.js file inside of our blog. So index.js right here. When we come to our application and go to local 3000/blog, we should see whatever we put in that index.js file. So right now we've not put anything there. It's an empty file. That's why we have that error message. And if we come over to our index.js file and do the same thing we did for bio, so we have RFC right here. And by the way, this is an extension, a React snippet extension. So you can search for that in the VS Code extensions section or window, and you should see a React snippet extension for generating components. So this is const index right here, and let's have H1 again so we can see it, and go over to our web page and look at that, React snippet works. We have a blog. So that's the way pages work in Next.js, where we have the pages directory, and then you have the name of whatever page you want to create. So the index.js file gives us the base URL, pages/index.js file. Then if we create any folder, the index.js file is going to give us the name of that folder. So if we want to create something else, blog/myarticle.js. When we go over to our application, localhost 3000/blog/myarticle right here, that is exactly what we're going to see. Whatever we put in this my article page is what we're going to see inside of blog/myarticle. So I should name that properly. So this should be my article right here, and we should get our article page right now. So this is how pages work in Next.js. And we can also have the SR. So you probably know of the XRC directory with your normal React, and you might be used to that, used to having the SRC directory, so you can separate what you have in pages, and maybe any other thing you want to add to your application, or configuration files, that are different from the Next.js config and eslint.json. The other configuration files that you can have them inside of the SRC directory to separate it from things like the public folder or the styles directory, and you can actually do that in Next.js. So we can come over to our base directory, and inside of our base directory, create a new folder named SRC, and then we can take our pages directory and drag it inside of our SRC directory. So when Next.js sees this structure, sees that you have an SRC directory, it's then going to look for pages inside of that SRC directory. So this is, you don't need to do any extra configuration for this. You don't have an SRC directory. Remember, it has to be in pages directory, but you don't have an SRC directory. You create that SRC directory. You can then go ahead and put whatever config you want to put, or any other thing you want to put in your SRC directory, which you're probably used to. And then you have your pages directory inside of your SRC directory. And now Next.js is going to look at pages from your src/pages directory. So if we come back to our application and let's reload that page, we need to restart a dev server for this. So I should stick with this npm script so that it's easier to restart a dev server. So right here, I hit the play button, and we have some errors right here because we've just switched directories. So let's see how we can fix that immediately. So inside of the app.js file, let's convert to the app.js file, which is now inside of the src directory, and then the pages directory, and then the underscore app.js file. I'll tell you what this app.js file does in a bit, but this should now be //styles.global.css, And then let's restart a dev server. We should have that working for us. So look at that, React snippets work right here. So this is what you can do with your Next.js routes and your Next.js pages. You can move it to an SRC directory and you still be fine. So this is it. You have pages in your SRC directory and you can decide to have any other thing, but for simplicity, let's move pages back to the base directory so that you can easily figure out what we're working on. So I'm just going to delete the src/config directory right now, and then we'll have to come back to the app.js file and undo what we just did right on line 1. All right, so this is what we have. Now, what is this app.js file about? Think of the app.js file like the src/index.js file in your normal React application. This is the shell for every of our Next.js page, all of our components. You can see right here online for we are returning components. Now, this is going to represent the individual pages in our Next.js application components, and then you have page props right here. Now, if, for example, we want to have a nav bar, which we're going to do in our application, we need a nav bar for our app. And let's say we have nav right here as the nav bar. Hey, I'm nav bar. Right here. So eslint is going to complain that we have this apostrophe symbol instead of an HTML entity. So I'm just going to change that to I am right here. And we have a nav bar. Now, whichever page we go to in our browser, remember we need to restart a dev server since we just changed our routing structure. So back to npm scripts, and I'm going to hit this run button again and restart tags. And back to a browser, you can see hey, I am nav bar on the blog/my article page. We go over to the /blog page. You can see hey, I am nav bar. So this is the shell for our application. Whatever we put here is what's going to be on every page right here. And then component represents the individual components, the individual pages. And if you have any issue doing this with Next.js, sometimes you can have issues where you're making changes in your application and you don't see them reflect on the browser. That can happen. And if that happens, one thing you should try to check out first is this .next directory. So this contains the build files for our application, this .next directory. And one thing you should first of all check, if you've tried to make some changes in your Next app and it's not reflecting on the browser, try to delete this .next directory and restart your dev server. So when you restart your dev server, that's going to be generated again. And usually that fixes not seeing your changes reflect on the browser, but this rarely happens. Although just in case it happens, I want you to know about the .next directory. Now you know about the underscore app.js, and this has to be the name. Next.js is particular about names of some of these files. So underscore app.js is what Next.js expects to see inside of your page directory. Now we have the bio.js page, which we've talked about, and we have the index.js page, which is going to represent the home page of your application. So whatever you put inside of pages/index.js is what we're going to see when we go to the base URL of your app. Now back to app.js, let's remove this for now. We'll create a navbar component later, and we have this. Welcome to Next.js. Now we've seen the .next directory, we've seen node modules, pages directory. The public directory is where we can house our assets, our public assets. We can have images in the public directory. You can see right now we have the favicon.ico and we have the vercel.svg image right here, which represents the Vercel logo, which you can see right now. Whatever we put in this public directory can be accessed from the base URL. That means that if we come over to localhost 3000 and we say /favicon.ico, we should see what we have right here for favicon.ico. We come over to localhost 3000 or your base URL and then /vercel.svg. So right here we have vercel.svg. We should see our Vercel logo, and that's why you want to put things like manifest.json. You put them inside of the public directory because that's where your browser is going to be looking for your manifest.json file, your favicon.ico file, and all the rest. So public directory is where we're also going to have our images for our blog. So you can see the finished applications, these images right now, we're going to put them in the public directory. Inside of the public directory, you can also have folders. So we can have the images folder, and then inside of images folder you can have files, and to access those files you have to say localhost 3000 or your base URL /images / the file name, just like we saw for pages, and then /blog. That's the same thing for the public directory. Now for the styles folder, this is where we have the CSS files for our application. So we can have .scss files or .css files depending on what we want to use for our app. For our blog, we'll be using regular CSS, so it'll be easy for you to follow. Now, this is the globals.css file. And inside of this globals.css file is where we have the global styling for our app. So this styling is going to apply to every page. Now, usually in my Next.js apps, I only have the global.css file, the home page style, and I also have the variables. So when I'm using SCSS with variables, I have my variables.scss file right inside of this styles directory. But for the individual pages, I create their own styles differently inside of their folder. So if I want a bio page, for example, I'll create a new folder named bio, and I'll have the index.js file, which is going to be accessed by going to our base URL /bio. And then I'll also have the bio.module.css file. And I'll show you that in a bit so you see it in practice. But then for our global styles, this is where I like to house my global styles right here. So Next.js is going to be looking for your global style inside of the styles directory, and then you have globals.css. This style is going to apply to every component in your app, to every page in your application. This home.module.css file is the styling that's currently being used for the pages/index.js file, which is the home page. We also have the eslint.json file right here, and on line 2 it extends next/core web filters. And when you convert to the package.json file, and inside of dev dependencies, we can see eslint and then eslint.config next right here for us. Inside of the package.json file, we also have the next package. Inside of dependencies, we have React, and then we have React DOM. Now, if we convert to the next.config.js file, this is where we have our Next.js configuration. Now we can decide to add extra settings to our Next app, configure it to our taste. If you come over to newdev.io, for example, this application works offline. It's a PWA, so which means that once you open up this app and you go offline, you'll still be able to access it. Now that PWA setup was done inside of the next.config.js file. You can also do other things like image optimization setup inside of the next.config.js file. You can also decide that you don't want the default routing system that Next.js has given us, where we have the pages directory and then we can create our different pages inside of it. You don't want the default routing system, and you can configure that inside of your next.config.js file. If you go to the Next.js documentation, you'll see that it's actually easy to read and easy to get started with. So Next.js has a large community, and that's important because you come across any bug, you're likely not going to be the first person to experience that bug. So if you search on Google, you see answers on Stack Overflow or other blog websites. And if not, you can ask the Next.js team. I've done that, and I usually get responses in less than 24 hours, friendly responses, and they've been helpful. So you can ask the Next.js team by sending a mail and email, and you get your response. So you're in good hands with Next.js. And that's the next.config.js file. We also have the pnpm. Okay, so this is because we use pnpm for as our package manager, and that's it for our Next.js application setup. That's it for understanding the Next.js app structure, the pages, public styles directory, how Next.js works with static files, the routing system for Next.js, and configuring our Next.js app in the next.config.js file. So it's time to start building a blog, and remember, this is what we're going to be building, so you have a second look at it. And we'll build this homepage. So this is going to be in the pages/index.js file. You already have the idea. We have the bio page, pages/bio.js file, and then we have the individual pages. Now for the individual pages, I'll show you how to generate this dynamically. So we're going to create our blog with MDX, a Markdown blog, and then we're going to generate these different pages from those files, so that you don't have to come over to the blog folder. You're creating astrobuild tutorial file, astrobuild tutorial.js file, and then you have free. So that means that for every blog post you have to create if you are not generating it dynamically for every blog post, you have to create a different file, a different component. But we're not going to do that. We just have a Markdown file, and then we'll generate our different files. So we'll see how to do that. Now let's start building. All right, for our app, we're going to start with the nav component, and this is what we have in the nav component. We have the link to the home page, which says my Next.js blog, and then we have a link to the bio page. So we'll have these links in the nav component. And back to code editor, which is VS Code for me, we'll create a new directory named component. So I like to separate the components from the pages. Now the nav component is going to be a component which we're going to then put in pages. So it's different. Pages are like the bio page, for example, that's a page. We have the Astro blog, this blog post right now, that's a page. So these are different pages. But then we have components which can be button components. So you can see an example of an ordinary component, which is this one we have right here for button. And then we have the nav component, which we're then going to take to our underscore app.js file. So I like to create components in the components directory. So you create a new folder, and then let's name it components right here. And inside of our components directory, we create a new file named nav.js. So this can be nav.js or nav.jsx. Let's just use JSX so you know that it's a component. So this is nav, and then we have .jsx right there. That's going to do the same thing with .js. Inside of our nav.jsx file, on line 1, let's create a nav component, and this is going to be const nav is equal to our arrow function that returns a JSX code. See how root returns right there. And then we have a nav class. So this is the normal HTML nav tag. And inside of our nav tag is where we want to have the link for the homepage link, which is named my Next.js blog. And then we have the one for bio. Now for links to Next.js, if you come back to the hosted application, which is next.empty.versal.app, for links in Next.js, we can go ahead and use the regular anchor tag, which you know of in HTML, which is going to be this. We have the href tag, and then we have bio, for example. Now the thing is, if you use the regular anchor tag, you don't get that SPA field. So this is our hosted app, and remember, we just go to bio. Even though it's a multi-page app, that gets immediately shown to us. We go to this blog post, it gets immediately shown to us. Even though it's a multi-page app, we don't notice that it works like an SPA. But if we use the regular anchor tag and we click bio, for example, it's not going to open instantly. There's going to be a load time, there's going to be a wait time for that page to load. So it will load first of all, and then we'll have the bio page. But Next.js has a link component which we can use to add links to our application. So on line 1, we have to import a link from next/link, and whenever Next.js sees a link inside of this link component, it's going to prefetch it. So if this is our Next.js homepage, for example, and Next.js has seen that this bio link is wrapped in the link component, is going to help us prefetch that page, so that once we click on it, the page is already ready for us. So that's what Next.js does when we want to create links that we can easily click on and see immediately. So links that feel like single page applications, we use the link tag from Next.js. The next thing we're going to do is change this anchor tag right here on line 6 to the link tag, and then we have link href, and this should be /bio, and we have the bio link. Now let's say this is in action. And for that, we'll come over to the app.js file. Let's have a nav component. So this is nav. And first of all, we need to export as default. So right on line 11 in the nav.js file, let's export default nav right here. So export default nav. And over to the underscore app.js file, we should type nav to automatically get that import. And then we have line 7 nav. We have line 1 import nav from /component/nav. Over to localhost 3000, you can see the bio page right here. So I've zoomed in a lot so you can see it. If not, we don't have any styling yet for our app, so it looks very small. So this is zoomed in right now, so you can see the bio link. How do I go over to the, yeah, so this is the bio link right here. You can click this and then you get the bio page. So do we have a bio page yet? We don't have a, yeah, we have a bio page right now. So this is our bio page right now. So you can click the link to get the bio page. We also need the home page. So over to the nav.jsx file, let's create another link for the home page, and we'll do that just before the bio page. So this is, once again, we have the link tag, and then let's name this my Next.js blog, and then this is link href, and then we have / right here. So look at that, we have my Next.js blog, and then we have bio. So we use CSS to style this, and so that we'll be able to space it out. Now let's click my Next.js blog, and look at that. That takes us to the home page. We click bio, and that takes us to the bio page. So that's how this works. Slash is going to take us to the base URL, or base route rather, so the home page. And we can also style this immediately, so I can teach you how to style applications in Next.js. Now Next.js works with CSS modules or SCSS modules. So you can use CSS or you can use SCSS in your Next.js application. And how we create a CSS module for a nav component is by naming a file nav.module.css instead of the regular nav.css. So you're probably used to just nav.css or nav.scss, but with modules, it has to be nav.module.css. And once we do this, we'll be able to import the style. So once we create our styles right here, we create our styles, we'll be able to import the style file as this: import styles from ./nav.module.css, and then we can use it with the JavaScript object notation. So if we have a class named nav, for example, we have styles.nav as that class. So let's see that quickly in action. Right now, for our style file, our nav.module.css file, we have .nav, and then let's start with display flex and align items. So this is something I've done before. Align item center. I also assume that you know CSS, so we're not going to spend much time here. And then we have padding as 4em. So this is it. This is the nav class right here. Now back to the nav.jsx file, the nav components. What we can then do, since we've imported the nav style online, to import styles from nav.module.css, we can give a nav tag the class. So the class name right here, and then we have the curly brace, and then we have styles.nav. So this is how we use CSS modules, and then this is how we use CSS modules in Next.js. So styles.nav right here is going to give us the nav class. Let's see if that makes a difference so far. So look at that. So right now we have my Next.js blog, and then you can see the gap we added right here on line 4, gap as 3em, and that's already taking effect. Next, we're going to add the styling for the home link, and then we'll give it font size of 2em and font weight of 500. And then we also need the bio link, so that's going to be .bio, and then we have font size again of 1.5em and font weight, so f weight should give us 400. And then we also want to add hover classes, so that's hover pseudo classes .home hover, and then we have .bio hover, and that should be text decoration on the line, so we know that that's clickable. So text decoration on the line right here, and that's it for our styling. So just gonna stay here for a second so you see what we have, and then over to the nav.jsx file, and right here on line 7 we have the link tag from my Next.js blog. This is not going to work if we try class name right here for our link tag and then styles.home, which is supposed to be the styling. It's not going to work. What we can do instead is have the anchor tag inside of the link tag. So that means that right here where we have class name styles.home, we remove that, and then inside of our link tag we create an anchor tag which we can then style. So we can't directly style the link tag, but we can style tags inside of the link tag. So we can create a link tag and then have the anchor tag inside of it, or the span tag inside of it, and then style that particular tag. So this is the anchor tag, and then we can now give it the class name as styles.home, and back to our browser, look at, see that it's taking effect. And we'll do the same thing for bio. Now I hope you're coding along with me. If you're not, I want you to code along with me so that I can try this out. In cases like this where I've done the one for the anchor tag, I want you to try it on your own for the bio tag. You pause this video, give it a try, and then play the video or continue the video. So right here where we have the one for bio, we can then wrap it in the anchor tag, and let's move bio. So we're just going to drag bio right here. We have a class name styles.bio. So there are several shortcuts you can do in VS Code, and people are always surprised that, oh, you can actually drag text around. Yeah, you can do that. I hope you've learned that today if you did not know. So that's it. We've successfully styled a nav bar. Right now we created a nav bar and we've styled it, and that's basically it for nav bar. So back to our hosted nav, that's all we have for a nav bar. Now you can see that it's looking different because what we actually want is the light theme. So what I'm going to do is come over to the styles folder, and inside of the global.css file, we'll scroll down to where we have the dark theme setting. And line 8 right here is that is going to take the dark theme setting for your computer. So if your computer is on dark theme or your computer is on white theme, this is going to take effect right here on line 8. But we don't want this, so let's just remove line 18 to line 26 in the global.css file. And then back to our application, this is localhost, and we have the light theme for our Next.js app. Now that we have a nav component and we've added it to our homepage, the next one we're going to do is structure our homepage so that instead of welcome to Next.js, we have a blog post. But to do that, we need the MDX files. And remember, like I've shown you before, this is what the MDX file is going to look like. So let's quickly add that to our own application. All right, now for our MDX files for our blog post, I've already written this blog post down, which you can find inside of this GitHub repository. So I have ebenezer.com/new next MDX assets. So I'm going to leave a link to this in the description of this video. The name of the repository for this app is also going to be prefixed with new, because I have an existing Next.js tutorial, so which is also named Next MDX assets and Next MDX blog. So the new version, which is the one you're watching right now, is called new Next MDX assets, so you don't get confused, and you're going to see a link in the description of this video. So check it out. I've left the public directory so the different posts right here. We have astrobuild.tutorial.mdx, FrontMotion.tutorial.mdx, and all the rest, so you can just download it and use in your application. And there's also the public directory which contains the images. So we have the astroblog thumbnail, the FrontMotion thumbnail, GraphQL thumbnail, and all the rest, so you can find them inside of this repository. So you can get them by downloading zip, or you clone it, whichever way you want to do it, but you can get this into your application. And right now for our own application, I'm going to come over to the base directory and I'll paste the post directory, which has all the posts. So we have the astro.mdx file and all the rest. Now I'm going to walk you through this MDX file, explain everything to you, but before I do that, let's also add the images. So we'll do that in the public directory, and once again I'm just going to paste the images directly in the public directory. And let's remove the images folder for now, since this is all we have in the public directory. So in your application, you probably want to structure the public directory. You can have /images/blog, structure it so that it's easy to understand whatever is there if your application gets big. But right now, this is all we have. So we have that directly in the public directory. Now back to our post directory, let's take a look at the MDX files. Inside of our MDX file, the astrobuild.tutorial.mdx file right here, you can see on line 1 there's this 3 dashes, and then we have line 2 to line 6, and then it's closed by 3 dashes. So 3 dashes at the beginning and 3 dashes at the end. Now this block is called the Frontmatter, and you're going to hear that word a lot when working with MDX files. This Frontmatter is like the description of a blog. So description is not going to cover everything, because we also have the description property, but it's where we have the metadata of our blog post of that particular MDX file. Let's come over to the hosted application. For example, this is the title: build a blog with Astro. And then we have learn Astro by building a blog, and that's the description: learn Astro by building a blog. And then we have the date, and we have tags, we have thumbnail URL. So all this are going to be extracted when we're getting the content of our MDX file. We can extract all this text you're seeing right here, line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can extract them as a JavaScript object with key value pairs. Now that is what the Frontmatter is for. It appears at the top of the page, wrapped in the 3 hyphens. That's how you write your Frontmatter, and I'll show you how to extract that as we build. We also have the ability to write HTML tags, JSX inside of our MDX file, and this is what I've tried to demonstrate in all of the MDX files, so that you can see how we can just easily use JSX codes, HTML regular div tags inside of our MDX file. So this is a blog post about Astro Build. You can see the strong tag is being used here, the BR tag is being used here. So I try to demonstrate everything inside of the MDX file. We have the BR tag again, and then I also demonstrated how we can also use the Markdown subheading. If you want to write a document, a long text, it's easier to use Markdown than your regular HTML, so that you don't start having H1 tags. You have the opening tag, you have the closing tag, you have P tags, you have the strong tag, you have the bold tag, EM tags, and all that. With Markdown, you can just have this for your subheading. You want an H1 subheading, you have just one hash, and then this is H1 subheading and all that. So I believe you already know about Markdown. And then we have the different text. So we just use a subheading in our blog post, and you can see this is going to change HHH to code. So let's actually see this in action. So this is we just use the hash subheading in our blog post, and then we also have these components. So I also showed how I've also demonstrated how you can use components in your MDX file. I'll show you how to supply these components to the MDX file. So it's one thing to use the components, because right now it's not being imported anywhere. So when we're doing the MDX setup, I'll show you how we can also supply this component to our MDX file so that it will be recognized. So this is the syntax highlighter component. It's a package we're going to install. Language is set to JavaScript, and then we have this text right here, const2 stuff return console.log, hey, right here. And that's how we're able to have syntax highlighting in a Markdown file through the use of components. Then we have our code block right here. So this is a code block. You can see that the font for the code block is different from the font for the regular text. And to do that, just like any Markdown, you wrap it in the 3 backticks. We also have a div again here. Here I'm using the component inside my Markdown file. And we also have this component, so the button component, which we're going to create in a bit, but this is the button component, which you can see right here. And then we can click, and we have our interactive button component right inside of our MDX file, right inside of our Markdown file. Now that is the structure of the MDX file, and that's the same thing you're going to see in the other files: Freema Motion, GraphQL, Redux, Toolkit, and variables in Python. So that's it. The next thing we're going to do is create this button component. So let's create the button component right now, so that we're going to use it when we're setting up our MDX file. So new file, and this shouldn't take us time. So this is button.jsx, and we have RFC to help us generate this component. Let's remove line 2. What are we returning? We are returning the button tag right here on line 3, and for the text of our button component, we're just going to have text so that we can use that in our MDX file. So let's have the preferred text we want. So this is like any React component. I just want to show you how possible it is to use components inside of your MDX files, inside of your Markdown files. I also want to show you how we can use global styling. So we've seen how to use CSS modules for our components. We can also use global styles so that we don't need to create another button.module.css file for this. I just want to show you. But if you're creating components, it's best to go with the CSS modules. But this is how we can use global styles. So remember, for our nav components right here, we had to import styles, and then we had to get nav from styles. So we had styles.nav. But if we just write the regular, so here eslint and Prettier are helping me rearrange the structure of this code, but I want to like this so it'll be easier for you to understand. So if we just write the name of the class as string, and that's the value of class name, Next.js is going to look for this class in the global styling. So it's going to come over to the styles folder and the globals.css file, and this is where Next.js is going to be looking for the button component. So let's do that. Let's see an example of that. Right inside of the styles/globals.css file, we can create a button class. And this is CSS I've written before, so I'm just going to paste that, and this is our button class. Now if we have the button.jsx file, Next.js is going to look for this class inside of the globals.css file. So if we have a string as the value of our class name, Next.js is going to look for that class in the globals.css file. So this is what we've done right now, and this is how to use global styles in Next.js. Now we've seen how to create the button.jsx file. Next, we want to do is see how to use the different posts in our application. So we want that to appear in the home page. If we go to the hosted application right now, you can see the different posts right here, and that's what we want for our own application. Our application right now is currently bare with the default welcome to Next.js text. We are going to change that, and we'll see how to get the content of this post directory so that we can get the title of our different blog posts, get the thumbnail URL. You can see the thumbnail URL right here. I just linked directly to /astroblog thumbnail.jpg, and that's because in the public directory right here, we have astroblock thumbnail, FreeMap motion thumbnail, GraphQL thumbnail, and all the rest. And that's why we have this on line 5. So we're going to see how to get the content, the front matter in particular for this homepage, because that's what we need for the homepage, just the front matter. And that's what we're going to get from these different files. We're going to get the title, date, description, thumbnail, URL, so that we can use that in the homepage. Let's see how to do that next. And that's going to be inside of the pages/index.js file. To work with MDX in our Next.js application, we're going to need the Next MDXRemote package. Now, there are other ways to use MDX in Next.js apps, but I found this to be the easiest and the most straightforward. Now, this is the MDXRemote package. We can add it with yarn ads or npmi next MDXRemote. Remember, we are using pnpm for our application. So we'll need the Next MDXRemote package. We'll also need another package named gray matter, and that's going to be used to extract the front matter from our MDX files. So let's use pnpm to install. So if you're using npm, you can write npm instead. You're using yarn, you can use yarn instead. So this is pnpm install, and then we have next MDX-remote. So next-mdx-remote, and we also want to install the gray matter package, and along with that we'll also install the React syntax highlighter package. So that's React-syntax-highlighter. So that's HIGHLIGHTER. So that's React syntax highlighter, and let's install these 3 packages in our Next.js application. With our packages successfully installed, we can go over to the index.js file, and let's see how to use the Next MDXRemote package and gray matter to work with MDX in our React applications. So what I'm going to do first of all is remove line 7 to line 67 so that we have just a regular div right here in our Next.js application. And if we go back to localhost 3000, you can see that everything is now empty. So on line 1, we have the import head from next/headline, and this head tag is going to serve as the HTML head tag that you know of, where we can have the title and the meta tags and script tag or style tag, whatever head tag you want to put, just like you do with your regular HTML, CSS, or even your regular React app in the public/index.html file. So right here on line 8, we're going to use that head tag. And we have the head tag right here. So this head tag is imported from next/head, and then we can have a title. So if you want to add meta tags, you do that inside of this head component. You want to add your script tag, you can do that inside of the head component. And you want to add style tags, you can do that inside of the head components. So let's name this my Next.js blog. And if we go back to our application and we look at the title bar right in our browser, you can see that this has been renamed to my Next.js blog. We also have this image tag on line 2, and where you can use this image tag to work with images in Next.js. You can use the regular img tags, that is going to be fine, but with the image tags you get automatic image optimization from Next.js, which is really cool. You don't have to do any work for that. You just get image optimization with Next.js using the image tag. So we're going to use that for our app. I'll show you how to do that. And then on line 3, we are importing styles from the home.module.css file. Now in our Next.js app and inside of this index.js file, we want to access all the contents inside of this post directory. So we want to read this file. And to do that, we'll need the Node.js FS package, the Node.js path package, but we don't have access to that in regular React. We don't have access to that in the browser or the client. So we need to do that during build time. So during build time, when we're using Node.js for our builds, we can then access the FS package, the path package, so that we'll be able to read files, read this directory, and get the content of this directory, get the different files, get their content. And to do that, to specify that code should be run during build time, Next.js has a getStaticProps function. This getStaticProps function is used to run code during build time, do whatever we want to do, and then supply props to our components. So instead of our getStaticProps function is where we want to access these different files. So we want to access the post directory and the different files in our post directory. It's not enough to just access that file. So when we access it, we still need to be able to pass it over to our component so that we can then use it on the client. So that's why we have this getStaticProps props method, this getStaticProps function. For example, if we want the different posts right here on line 5, we're going to be expecting posts in this way. So this post right here, this post prop, is going to be supplied through the getStaticProps method. Now let's see that in action. And what Next.js is going to be looking out for in your component is an export of a function named getStaticProps. So when Next.js sees this, Next.js knows that you want to actually get static props. You want to do something during build time and then supply props to your component. Let's make this an asynchronous function, so we can then access FS. So if you try to do this on the client, you're going to get an error because we can access this on the client. It's not available to our browsers. So we can access FS during build time with Node.js. So this is FS right here, and then we have require, and then this is FS, and we also want to get path right here. So we're also going to use path from Node.js. So this is also once again require, and then we have path for path. We also have matter, so this is const matter, and that's equal to require. And remember the gray matter package we installed, which is used to extract Frontmatter. We have gray matter right here on line 19. The next we're going to do is get all the files, and this is going to be const files, which is equal to fs.read directory sync. So this is read dir sync. I like saying it in full so it's easier to understand, but this is actually readdir, and then we have sync. So reads, and then we have dir, which is like directory, and that's it. And inside of this method, we have path.join. So we want to get just post right here. So that's the path we want to read. We want to read this post directory. That's basically what this line is saying. We want to read the post directory, which is, if we wanted to read the pages/blog directory, that's going to be path.join, and then we'll have pages blog. But right now we want just post, which is inside of the base directory. It's not inside of any other directory. So that's why we have path.join, and then we have just post right here. So I'm using path.join, so you can see that if you're using an src folder, for example, if post was inside an src folder, it's going to be path.join, and then you have src and then post. Next, let's get our post. So on line 41, we have const posts post, and this is equal to files. So right now we've gotten files on line 21. Then let's map through this file so that will return an array for our post. So this is what we want to send back to our home component. Now on line 23, we have files.map and then file name. So for each of this file, we want to get the file name right here, and then let's get the markdown. So markdown with meta. So first of all, we read the directory to get the different file names. Now for each of these files, or each of the file names right here, which we have on line 23, let's get the content. We want to read the content next, now that we have the file name. So we have fs.read file sync this time around, and then this is going to be path.join. So this is blocking a view. So this is path.join, and I'll zoom out a little bit so you see everything. And then we have post right here, and we have file name. So remember, like I said, if it was src, it's going to be src post, but this is just in the post directory, which is inside of the base directory. So we have post and then file name. So that's going to be, if the file name is Astro Build Tutorial, for example, that's going to be post/astrobuildtutorial.mdx, and that's why we have path.join, post, and file name. And then let's also specify UTF-8 right here. So this is UTF-8 as the character encoding. Right now on line 24, we've gotten markdown with meta, and we can actually see the result right now. So let's see what we have so far, so it doesn't look foreign to you. Let's log markdown with meta to the console. Now remember, this is going to be done during build time. That means that we should expect to see it in this console. So let's clear the console right now. We expect to see it inside of this terminal, not in a browser console, not in this console. This is not for the client. This right now should be shown to us inside of the terminal. Now let's run dev again. So I'm just going to come over to the script section, and then npm script session, and then I'll hit dev and restart restart task. Why did I say task? Restart task, not tax. It's confusing. So that's it. We've not returned anything yet, so we're getting that error, but we get our console.log statement. So this is it. This is what we logged to the console. Now we have the content of our Markdown file, but that's not all. What we actually want for the home page is this. We're interested in this. If it's the single post page, we're going to be interested in the other content like the text inside of it, the div and all the rest. But for our home page, we are just interested in the front matter. So next, we'll see how to get the front matter as JavaScript object from this Markdown file. Now remember, that's why we have gray matter. So let's do that. And on line 25, we have const content is equal to matter. So we're going to call matter. Remember the matter we imported on line 19. And as an argument, we have a Markdown with meta. So let's log this content to the console so you see what's inside of it. So this is content. All right, that's logged to the console right now. And let's open up our console and hopefully we get to see. So look at that. We have a Markdown file. This is the content of our Markdown file. And we also have data right here. So data is what contains front matter. And you can see that right now we have a JavaScript object with key value pairs. So that's inside of data. So we can destructure directly, and then we are going to get data right here from matter, and this we can log data to the console so we see what we have right now. So this is it. This should be data right here. I think I should reload and then we should get data. So remember that right here on line 23 we are doing files.map, and then for each of the files we are logging to the console. So this is the one for build a blog with Astro. We have a JavaScript object with key value pairs, Framer Motion, GraphQL, Redux Toolkit, and the one for Python. So that's it for getting our front matter from our MDX file. The next thing we want to do is return an object for each of these posts that contains the front matter and then the slug. So this is the slug. If we come over to the hosted application, for example, and then we come to the Astro.js site, Astro.js blog post, we have the slug right here, which is named Astro Build Tutorial, and we're getting that slug from the file name. Is the unique descriptive part of the URL that we can use to identify each of the blog posts. So we want to return the slug, and we'll get the slug from the file name. Right now on line 27, let's return front matter, and front matter is data, and we also want to return slug, and slug is going to be the file name. So right now the file name has .mdx included, so let's remove that. So we're going to split the file name by dots and then get the first value. So if we split the file name by dots, what we're going to get is an array that contains the file name, which can be Astro blog, and comma, and then we have MDX because we've split it from the dot symbol. We're going to get the first element of this array, which is going to be the slug. So when we split it, we have 0 right here for the first element of our array. Now we have our post right here. We can log our post to the console so that we see what it looks like, and what we should expect is an array of objects that contain the front matter and the slug. So let's log post to the console, and then back here let's see if we have that already. So we need to reload the application so that that gets compiled, and then we should have posts right now. So this is it. This is our array of objects, and each of them front matter, slug. Now we have our post array. The next thing we want to do, look at our getStaticProps, is returning nothing right now, but we need it to return something. So, and that's how we're going to send our post. This post right now that we have, we're going to send that post over to the home component. So we return it as prop, and let's have our return statement for the getStaticProps method. So this is return, and inside of our return object we have props, which is then going to contain posts. And that's it. So look at that. Inside of our return object we have props, which contains post. Now this post is going to be available to our home component. We can now access post. So if we log post to the console, we should expect to see it in the browser console this time around. So let's log post to the console, and we should expect to see it in the browser console. I hope I did a good job explaining that to you. So these are the posts. If you've not subscribed to my channel by now, or you've not followed me on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, please do so right now. and I'd love to see your application. So when you're building this, remember newdev.io, come over to newdev.io. I want to see what you built. I don't want to spend this much time explaining everything in detail and I don't get to see your application that you built. I want you to hold yourself accountable, or I want to hold you accountable, however that is put, but I want to see your own application. Come to new dev and then post it with your GitHub URL so that I can check it out. That'll be really awesome. All right, now we have posts available to us. Let's use it in our home component. For our home component, for the styling, so we don't spend much time, let's just come over to the styles and then the home.module.css file. I'm going to paste what I've already done for the styling, and I'm going to add this. I'm going to add the styling for the home, every CSS style we've used so far. I'm going to add that in the GitHub repo I just showed you, where you had the assets, the new Next MDX assets repo, and where you have the images and the posts. I'm going to add the CSS styling also so that you can see them and you'll be able to use them in your own application. But this is so that we don't spend extra time trying to style this. So this is for the styling, and then back to the index.js file. We've imported styles from styles/home.module.css. The next thing we're going to do is create an empty line. Remember, you have to, like I always say, you should structure your applications well. See the way I've given empty lines where empty lines need to be given, and spaces where spaces need to be given. Is important that you structure your application, your code, in a way that people can easily read it. Now we have a div on line 12, and let's give it class of we have class name right here of styles.article list. The next we want is map through post. So this is post right here. We have post, and then we'll do post.map, and then we have posts.map, and then for each post we also want to get index so that we use that for the key. Let's return a JSX, and we'll start with a link tag for each of the links. For each of the posts we're going to start with the link tag, so you don't get lost. This is what that means. This is what that's going to look like. If you come to the hosted app, look at this. This is a link tag. So what we have right here, we have the image, the text, and all that. That's wrapped in the link tag, so that anywhere you click on this, we will take you to that particular post. So that's what we're doing for our application also. Now we have the link tag, and then let's add href to this link tag. So this is going to be href right here, and then we have /blog/plus post.slug. So this is post right here, the slug. Remember, right here we returned slug and Frontmatter as part of each post. So this is going to be /blog/post.slug. Another way we can write this is by using the JavaScript string literals right here. So we have the string literals, and then we have /blog, then /post.slug. So this is another way we can write it. And we also need the key prop for our link tag. So this is key as index. So right now, remember I told you we'll learn how to dynamically generate the blog post pages. So that if we go to /blog/astro.js blog astro.js post, we're going to see the one for astro.js /blog/GraphQL post. We see the one for GraphQL and all that. So this is the link tag right here, and we have a complaint. Link is not defined. We need to import link. So I'm just going to try to write that again so we can import it directly from Next.js. So look at that, is imported on line 3. Inside of our link tag, we have the anchor tag so that we can give this a class. So this is anchor tag right here, and the anchor tag does not need the href attribute because that's already with the link tag, but we need class name for our anchor tag, which is going to be styles.item. Now inside of our anchor tag, we then have the div tag, which is going to contain a thumbnail. So this is the div tag, and this div tag inside of the anchor tag is just to help us with the styling. You can decide to rearrange this however you want. This is just HTML, this is just JSX, so it's all up to you. Now on line 17, we have class name right here, and styles. So styles.thumbnail, and on line 18. Let's have the image. So we're going to use the image tag right here, and it's straightforward to use. We just have the image tag right here, and then src. So this is image tag from Next.js. We have src right here on line 18, and I should zoom in so you can see it better. So this is post, so this is the src.frontmatter, and remember this is what we did inside of the mdx file, the thumbnail URL. Just refresh your memory. Let's go back to the mdx file inside of post. Do you like the way I'm explaining everything in detail? I feel like the tutorial is gonna be really long. Let me know if you like it, if you like me to explain everything like this. So this is the post URL slash the thumbnail URL rather slash astroblog thumbnail.jpg. Now on line 18, this is line 18 right here. Okay, yeah, and I should close this one so that we're focused. So let's close that one too. Now this is it. We have src post.frontmatter.thumbnail URL. Once again, I'm going to zoom out so that this line is getting long. So let's zoom out. So alt right here is going to be thumbnail. With the image tag, we have to set specific width and height. So width is going to be 500 and height is going to be 400. So this is 400 for height. And then let's also add object fit cover for our image. This is just for styling. And that's it for our image tag. Let's see what we have so far in our localhost 3000. That's good. This is already looking really good. And these are our images so far. So for your styling to work, you have to structure your app the same way and use the classes. If not, you can do the styling is totally up to you. You can create your own CSS files and style it and structure it whatever way you want. But if you want to follow my own styling, you have to structure your app the same way and use the styles and the classes the same way. Still in the anchor tag, the next thing we want to do is have another div which is going to contain the detail. So we'll have the title, the description, and the date. And let's do that. We have h2 for title, and the title is going to be post. So let's wrap this in curly braces, and then we have post.frontmatter.title right here. And line 22, we have class name as styles.title. And we also want to have a p tag, and this is going to be for the description. So post.frontmatter.description. And then for class name, right on line 23, we have styles.description. So all this have been done in the CSS file. So I just try to open the CSS file. If I open, this is supposed to work. I wonder why this is not opening the CSS file directly. But on a good day it does. So I think it's maybe a setting. I'm using VS Code Insider, by the way, to record this. But then, like my regular coding, just command clicking should open up the CSS file, like what we did here. So if you command click and you get the .d.ts file, which you might not understand, you just go over to this part and then description, then you can see the content of the CSS file, so you know what you're doing. So we have the description class, we have the title class, we have the date class, which we're going to be using. So this is the p tag. We also need p tag for the styles.date, DATE for date, and then this is post.frontmatter.date. Now this is what we have so far. Let's go see what this looks like in the browser. So look at that, looks really good, right? Is this the same thing with what's here? Oh, as it zoomed in, I just realized it was looking a bit different. So as this was zoomed in, so this is it. Now we have our home page ready. The next thing we want to do is create the post page, single post page, so that when we convert to /blog/astro build tutorial, we see the astro post /blog/framer motion tutorial, we see the framer post, GraphQL, and Redux Toolkit and all the rest. So let's do that next. We are done with the post page officially, finally, which feels good. Next we want to do is we're done with the home page rather, which feels good. Next thing we want to do is the single post page. So congrats so far on getting to this stage. I hope it's been an interesting journey so far. Please share with me in the comment section. Don't worry, this is not the end of the video, we are still continuing, but so far share with me in the comment section what this has been like for you. Now let's create a dynamic paths for the different individual pages. All right, to create dynamic paths in Next.js, we need to create a file with its name wrapped in square brackets. So right now we want slug.js. Now this slug is going to represent all the different slugs for our different articles, like Astro blog post, Redux Toolkit blog post, GraphQL blog post. This is going to help us generate the dynamic path for each of them. So we need just this one file, and then this one file is going to help us generate paths for as many files as we want, and depending on their slug. So we can use id, we can use anything we want basically inside of this place. So we can use id, we can use slug, or any other unique so paths has to be unique, so any other unique identifier. So this is slug.js right here, and this slug.js file is going to represent our individual post pages. So let's start by creating our post page components on line 1. So this is post page, and then we have a function that returns a JSX. So this is return right here, and then we have div, and I'm just gonna say post page here. So this is the post page. Next, we want to generate a dynamic paths, and for that we're going to use a method called getStaticProps, and this is what Next.js is going to be looking out for when it sees a page wrapped in square brackets .js. Next.js is going to be looking out for the getStaticProps method, which you're going to use to specify how these paths are going to be dynamically generated. We can create const getStaticProps, but what I like to do is export while declaring the function. So we can either do this const getStaticProps, and then at the end of the file we now have exports getStaticProps. That's export, or we can just export directly on line 5 right here. So export const getStaticProps, and this is equal to our asynchronous function. And on line 6, let's start by reading our file. So we want to generate static paths, so we need to get the slug for this, and to get the slug we'll have to read our file, just like what we did for the pages/index.js file for the home page. We need to see the content of this post directory so that we can get the slug for these different files. So Astro build tutorial, we get the slug for this particular file from the file name, Freeman Motion, GraphQL Redux toolkit, variables in Python. So let's do that right here inside of the getStaticProps method. We want fs, so const files is equal to fs dot read directory sync, so read dir sync. But let's import fs at the top of our file, and this is because we'll also need the getStaticProps method to be able to supply props to our post page. And both the getStaticProps method and the getStaticProps method will be needing the fs module and the path module. So let's just import that at the top of our file. So import fs from fs and import path from path. On line 9 we have const files, so I'm going to zoom in again so you can see it clearer. We have const files, which is equal to fs dot reads directory sync, read dir sync. Oh, we're doing something wrong right now, and look at this. On line 8 we are making this an object. So actually what we want to do is just return this right here, so that we can write our JavaScript inside of line 9. But if we wrap this in parentheses, that means that we want to return an object. So just JavaScript. Now line 9, const files is equal to fs dot read directory sync, and then we have path dot join and post. So we want to get all the files inside of the post directory. So next, on line 11 we have const path, which is equal to files dot map, and then we have file name. This time around we're going to be returning an object. So notice the difference. We want to return an object instead. That is why we are wrapping it in parentheses first of all. So this is what we're returning, and then we have an object right here. So that's the difference between what we're doing on line 12 and what we're doing on line 8. Now on line 12 we have params right here, and then this is going to be an object with slug file name dot split. So this is basically what we did inside of the home component, so inside of the pages/index.js file. So this is paths right here, and then we have params as slug. And this is what Next.js is going to be looking out for, because we've named the file slug. If this was ID, if this was named ID, we'll need to name this ID. If it's whatever is named here has to be the same with what we have on line 13. So this has to be slug. And then the next thing we want to do is return our paths. So right here, we're going to return paths. So paths. We're also going to return another property which Next.js will be expecting, which is named fallback. And we're going to make this false. Now, this means that if a user comes to our application right here, and then this is the localhost 3000, for example, /blog/something, we'll get a 404 page. So right now we need to add a getStaticProps to see that in action. But if we have fallback as false, okay, let's use the main app, the hosted app, to test that out. So this is /blog/astro.js. But if we have a URL that doesn't exist in our app, which is under /blog/something else right here, and we go over to it, you can see that we're getting a 404 page returns to us from our application. If this was not fallback false, we'll get an error message instead. There's also fallback blocking. So if fallback is set to blocking, the paths that are not generated by getStaticProps during build time, if they're available after build time, so if we've added more blog posts, if we're getting the blog posts from the server, we've added more blog posts, that's going to then be generated and then cached for future requests. You can check out the Next.js documentation for more detail on these return values. So we have path fallback, and then we have fallback as false for our own application, and that's on line 19. Now we have our paths. This is how we've successfully generated our paths. Right here on line 13 is where the magic is happening. We're generating our path by returning the slug on line 13. So this is slug, and then that's file name.split, the path without the MDX extension. Next thing we want to do is add the getStaticProps. So let's have export cons, and this is so that we can supply the content of our MDX files to our post page component. Now on line 23, we have export const getStaticProps, and we have async, and these are asynchronous function. Now we're going to do something similar to what we did in the pages/index.js file. Now see on line 8 where we are returning params. Right here we have slug. We can then access these params in our getStaticProps function. So we can just access it directly right here. We have params, and then params.slug will give us the content of this key on line 13, the slug key. So the value right here, we're going to get that from params.slug, just like we have right here on line 12. We have params, and then we have slug, the key value pair slug, and file name.split for the slug of that particular article. Now on line 23, we need the slug, and we can just get slug directly also. So this is just JavaScript. We can just destructure directly get slug. But just so this does not confuse you, it shouldn't though, you should know this, but just so it doesn't confuse you, let's work without that. So we can just access params.slug directly. On line 24, let's get the markdown, and this is const markdown is equal to fs.read file sync, and then we have path.join and post right here. Then we have the slug. So right now we don't need to read directory sync to get all the file names. We can just do that since we have the slug already. Since we've already done that on line 9 in the getStaticProps, and we have the slug, we can use that directly. So this is params.slug and then plus .mdx. So remember, we removed the .mdx extension on line 13. Now we want to add it back to be able to read the content of our file. And then let's specify the character encoding as UTF-8. The next thing we want to do is get the content of our Markdown file and serialize it, convert it to React elements so that we can then use it. So right now it's in Markdown, but we can have Markdown in our HTML page. We need HTML in our HTML page. So we want to convert our Markdown to HTML, and that's what we're going to do next. So right here on line 26, let's have serialized contents, serialized. Then we have contents, and this is equal to, so let's await this, and we need the serialize method from Next MDXRemote. So let's look for the one from Next that's not being suggested for us. So let's try to import that. Let's import serialize, not from V8. In case you get this when trying to import, we want to serialize from Next MDXRemote. So this is what we want, not serialize from V8. Serialize from Next MDXRemote. Now we have serialize, and remember we installed the Next MDXRemote package earlier to help us with working with MDX files in our Next.js application. Now we have our serialized content equal to await. We call the serialize method, and what we want to serialize is this Markdown. Remember we've gotten the content of our Markdown with fs.read file sync. So on line 26 we are serializing Markdown, and let's specify the option. We also need the Frontmatter, but with Next MDXRemote we can also get the Frontmatter directly instead of using gray matter. But I wanted to show you how you can get it done with gray matter also. In the case of our home component, we don't need to serialize our file, we just needed the Frontmatter. So in pages/index.js, all we needed was the Frontmatter. We didn't need to serialize the content and convert to HTML. So that's why we just use gray matter directly on line 37. But if you're using Next MDXRemote, you can get the Frontmatter also while serializing, so you don't need gray matter for this. You can just directly get the Frontmatter. So line 28 we have format, and then one of format as MDX, and the next one to do is pass Frontmatter. So parse, then we have Frontmatter and true. So with this we'll be able to get the Frontmatter. Now there's also a key name scope, and with this we can pass variables. So I'm just going to write this in comments so you see it. I also added the comment in the GitHub repository, so I'm going to leave a link to this repository. Apart from the assets repository, I'll leave a link to this GitHub repository in the description of this video. So with this scope we can supply variables to our MDX file. So we can add variables right here on line 30 on that scope, and then we'll be able to access those variables in our MDX file. So we can supply variables to the MDX files via scope right here. So you know what that does. You can try it out. I would love for you to try it out. Try to use variables in your MDX files. So next one is MDX options. So we're not going to be using this, but I want to show you what's available to us via Next MDXRemote. So through the serialized method, Next MDX option, we can have plugins right here. So we can have the remark plugins, and an example of this where this is used. So in our application right now we're using the React syntax highlighter components, which we need to pass later. I'll show you how we can pass that component over to our MDX file. But if you come to new dev.io, for example, my learning and developer community platform, and you go to any of the articles right here, JavaScript functions for example, now you can see that the code looks different from what we have here with the React syntax highlighter. So for this one right now I used a plugin, a remark plugin, and this was where I specified the plugin right here on line 32. It's named Code Hike plugin. You can check it out, and then you want to work with plugins directly, you can use that. And when your content is being serialized, that plugin is going to work also for your MDX file. So this is an example of where you can use plugins. So I use plugins to work with these code blocks right here. But for our own application, we only need the React syntax highlighter, which still looks really good. So that's it for the remark plugins, and there's also the rehype plugins. These are examples of plugins you can use. I typed that correctly. So I have a VS Code extension, C-Spell extension, for helping me check spellings. So that's it, rehype and remark plugins. But that's all for serialized content right now. The next thing I want to do with you is log this to the console. And it's important you log whatever you write, if you see something new, you try to log it to the console so that you see the data inside of it. This is so that you know what you're doing. You're not just copy pasting code, or you're not just typing whatever I'm typing. You have to know what you're doing. So this is console.log serialized content on line 37. We need to come over to our browser localhost 3000 and click on the blog post, but see that we have an error message here. The default export is not a React component in page blog/slug. I want you to read these error messages when you see them. There are a lot of people that just see that there's an error and they get scared immediately without reading the error messages. So when you read the error message, it's going to be easy for you to understand what to do next. And this is because we don't have any default export right now in our slug.js file post page. So let's export post page as default. So this is export default post page right here on line 40, and we can now reload to see the content of attribute.js. So we have another error message which says that serialize is not a function. Let's fix that. On line 3, we want to import serialize from next MDXRemote /serialize. So this is where our import should come from, not serialize from next MDXRemote. It should be serialized from next MDXRemote /serialize. Now let's try again, reload, and what do we have? We have a new error, but this time around, this is nothing we should worry about because we've not gotten to this stage yet. Right now, we should be able to see our console.log statements, and look at this. So this is the serialized version of our MDX file. You can see our React elements right here, and you can also see the front matter, and this is scope. So that's it for the content of the serialized content. That's it for the content of the serialized content. Yeah, so next thing we want to do, just like we did before, before I do the next thing, I want you to try it out yourself. So pause this video right now and return props. So what I want you to do is pause this video. You're going to return from getStaticProps. You return props which should contain slug and serialized content. So this serialized content, we're going to use it inside of the post page component. So return slug and return this serialized content. So pause this video and give that a shot. Okay, I hope you paused this video and tried it out. But line 37, this is it. So we're going to return props right here, and then we want slug, and this should be params.slug, and we also want the serialized content so that we can now access it inside of our post page component. Actually, we need just serialized content. We don't need slug. So let's remove that on line 39. We only needed slug in the home page, but inside of the article page, unless we want to do something else, I'm just showing you how this can be done. Maybe you want to be able to share your articles. You can add slug so that you can easily share your articles or reference that article link and all that. But you can remove it if you don't need it. We only need serialized content right now, which is the content of our MDX file. And then let's get this as props. We're almost done because the next part is going to be straightforward. So we'll get front matter. Remember, when we log this to the console, you saw front matter inside of serialized content. So let's get front matter from serialized content. And on line 8, let's wrap this in parentheses. And we have the post page here. And let's add a class. So class name, have we imported as styles? No, let's import a style file. So import styles from .post.module.css, and we should also create that real fast. So this is blog, and then we have post.module.css, and once again I'm just going to paste the content of the post.module.css. It's not much, it's just 5 lines, and I'm also going to leave this file inside of the GitHub repo for assets, so go check it out. And we have our slug.js file, and then on line 9, once again, that's prettier, helping me rearrange my JSX, but we need it like this. On line 10, for our class name, we just get styles.postPage. So this should be with small letter post page. because that's the name of our class. And then let's have an h1 tag for title, and this is going to be frontmatter.title. So that's the title of our blog post. And next, we need MDXRemote from Next.js. So let's add that import on line 3. So this is import MDXRemote from Next.js this time. We import serialize from Next.js/serialize. On line 3, we import MDXRemote from Next.js. Now, this is what we're going to use to render our serialized content on our page. On line 13, let's write the MDXRemote component, and then we want to pass the serialized content. So this is our serialized content right here. And we can save this. If we go back to our application and we reload, we should see an error message because our MDX file is expecting the component button, is also expecting the component syntax, the React syntax highlighter component. So let's see that real quick. This is our MDX file, and we're using this component, syntax highlighter component. We're using the button component, so we need to supply that right here on line 13 when we're rendering our MDX file, so our serialized content. We need to add that as a prop, and we can do that using the components prop, and this is equal to an object which should contain the different prop. So we can import our button component, pass it right here for the button component, and then the syntax highlighter component. So that just gave me another suggestion. What we're going to do right now is come over to line 7, and we'll just create a components variable to make this easier to understand. And then we get button. We should import button. So let's import button from // and / components / button. We're also going to import the React syntax highlighter component. So this is import syntax highlighter from React syntax highlighter. So let's just do this directly from React syntax highlighter, and that should work just fine. So line 5, we have imports syntax highlighter from React syntax highlighter. Now inside of our components objects, we have button and we have syntax highlighter. This is one way to do it. You can create the components variable, or you can just put it directly inside of this components param, but I just want to make it easier for you to understand. So on line 9, we have components right here, and let's save this. And back to our browser now, we should see our post page. View the blog with Astro. This feels so good that we've gotten to this extent. I don't know if you feel as good as I feel right now, but it feels so good that we've gotten to this extent. So you should pat yourself on the back. You should congratulate yourself because it's not it's no easy feat. So this is our button, by the way. And right now you can see that this, what we've just done, works for all our pages. So we have the one for Framer Motion, the React Motion library. We come to the GraphQL blog post. We have the same thing: GraphQL, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we've been able to successfully dynamically generate paths for all of our posts. For the button components, let's see how we can make this work just for fun. Let's see how we can make this work like we have right here in the main application. So we'll just go over to the components directory, and inside of the button.jsx file, let's add an on-click event. So we have an on-click event right here, and we'll need event, and then let's return event.target.inner text plus, I'm going to break this into multiple lines so you can see it better, plus fire. You can do whatever you want here. So this is just so that you can see the button's interactivity. Now this is it. We have button, we have our on-click event listener, and then we have event.target.inner text plus equal to fire. So whenever we click on the button, we have fire added. So let's try that out. Click on the button, fire, 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 and that's it. That's it for our button. Now we've successfully seen how to create our individual post page. We've seen how to generate dynamic paths with the getStaticProps method, and then how to use that path getStaticProps. We've seen how to serialize our MDX content, our Markdown content, and then we've seen how to use MDXRemote, the MDXRemote component, to render our serialized content in our application. This is amazing. This is really good, and that's it. That's basically it for our application. We need the bio page though, and this is it. Hey there, I am bio. I'm going to leave it this way right now so you can work on it yourself. This is what I did for the bio page in the main app. Hello and welcome to my Next.js blog, but please make this yours. This is just the scaffold. Style it the way you want, get creative, give yourself the bio page. You can add your picture. I've shown you how to use the image tag. You can do all of that. Work further on this. This is how you learn. This is how you grow. Don't just do a direct clone of whatever I'm doing. You just do the tutorial and assume you've learned. You have to actually build. You have to do something further. And I want you to do that. I want you to get creative. I usually give assignments, homeworks in my tutorials, but I want you to get creative this time around and do something else. Add something to this blog post, restyle it, and then come over to newdev.io and add your post in the community feed. So if you come to newdev.io, and you sign in, you can sign. It's free to sign in. It's free to access this community feed. So you can sign in, and then you're going to see a plus button to write your story. You use that and add your story, just like you can see for all these other people, and you can see their stories right here. It's going to be beneficial to you, and I'd love to see your story. I'd love to see you describe what you just did, how you built the Next.js app, what the tutorial was like for you, what the course was like for you, and what you were able to build. Add your GitHub repo URL, just like what you've seen with all these other people, and that'll be really cool to see. I'd love to check it out, and leave a comment for me in the comment section of this video. Let me know how this was for you. Let me know if you like the way I explain things, if you like the fact that I try to break things down very well, or if you want me to make the next tutorial or course much shorter with much shorter explanations. Let me know what you think. Let me know how this has helped you. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Please don't be scared. Just say something. I'd love to hear from you. That's going to help keep me going. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button on my channel, and ring that notification bell so that you know whenever I release React web development videos, JavaScript videos, and all the rest. So see you next time. I've left a link to my social media handles in the description of this video, but just in case you don't see it, you can come to newdev.io/Ebenezer. You can also create your own page. You can create your own profile page. Like for everyone right here, they have their profile page, so that's something you can create for yourself. You have your stories displayed to you. So come to newdev.io/Ebenezer, and you've seen my profile page with a link to my different social media handles. I'd love for you to follow me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, Instagram. That'll be really cool. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.